about something coming out in the next 10 to 15 years that will change humanity forever that not enough people are talking about. Story 1 was just reading about advances in mRNA technology that could potentially reshape cancer treatment. The idea is doctors take a sample of a cancer patient's cancer cells and tailor a custom vaccine to treat their specific form of cancer. It's the beginning of real tailored medicine, and it could be massively beneficial. Story 2 algae-based products will help cut down on plastic waste. They're already making edible water bottles using algae. Not to mention algae farming is going to revolutionize climate control. Edit this single thread repaired my karma. Thank you, lovelies. Story 3 A team of scientists has successfully isolated a gene in humans previously thought to be a disorder that allows adult human beings to regrow their adult teeth at least one extra time, and a drug that can activate it. A Japanese team of researchers has recently, as in within the last 5 years, discovered our teeth only stop growing because of a molecule they're developing a drug to eliminate, allowing you to regrow whole sets of teeth. There are issues such as not knowing how to reintroduce the stop mechanism, and the fact it would be a whole set at once with all the same issues your first set of adult teeth had when they came in. Regardless, this could completely change how we approach dental health, medicine connected to it, and change public perception of altering or reactivating genes in ourselves for health or cosmetic purposes. There have been successful animal tests, and the most recent information I found was that they were beginning the process of human trials, which will take several years. Edited to add, I couldn't find any great sources, but here's a news article talking about the discovery and what it could mean. Some of my wording was also wrong. It's not reactivating a gene, it's attacking the molecules that stop tooth growth. My understanding isn't great, but I know that when I was looking for sources, they mentioned successful animal tests in one of them. Edit 2 crossed out what I said incorrectly, bolded the correction. Story 4 Generic semaglutide. Once the patent expires and this drug becomes cheaper, it will be used more. This is shown to be a treatment for obesity and addiction, as well as reducing risk of liver disease and neurodegenerative diseases. Story 5 The inability to discern between real and artificial intelligence, and between reality and fabrication, and the cultural acceptance of both as legitimate. Story 6 I've heard they're close to figuring out how to regrow teeth. Like you heal a wound, you can also heal your teeth, something with it being tested in Japan, and I think some deadline would be the October, if I remember correctly. Story 7 Vertical farming. As the cost of traditional farming increases and becomes less productive as weather becomes more warm and unpredictable, vertical farming's advantages with controlling the light and temperature will outweigh the current high initial costs and energy requirements. Story 8 I think it will take longer than 10 to 15 years, but in the never-ending source for cheap labor, the world will turn its attention to Africa. Huge population, very low wages, rich in natural resources and close to developed nations etc. The Chinese have been investing heavily in African infrastructure, rails, roads, ports. You will see Africa become much more important on the global stage in the future. Story 9 Massive population decline in Western countries. This will begin to seriously increase by around 2030. It will lead to massive geopolitical changes over the next 50 years. The Accidental Superpower is a great book on this topic. Story 10 The application of deep machine learning to atomic simulations. Essentially, we have had this program called density functional theory which can solve multi-atomic quantum mechanic problems, uses approximations, as without there literally isn't enough time that has passed in the universe to solve even just 100 atom systems with current computers with high enough accuracy to back out real materials properties with very high accuracy. The issue is that even a few thousand atoms becomes extremely expensive, talking weeks to months on a supercomputer, and a lot of practical use cases, like how doping in semiconductors leads to different electric properties, can require more like 100,000s of atoms to be realistically modeled. ML allow for fast enough simulations to go to millions of atoms to even hundreds of millions of atoms, allowing for even biological processes to be simulated on the atomic scale at near quantum mechanic accuracy. This will revolutionize all materials RD and lead to huge discoveries in many fields like computing hardware and drug discovery. Microsoft, Meta, IBM and others have all invested heavily in this area, developing huge atomic simulation datasets. If only we could get them to make them public. Some of the other answers put here, like algae-based products, really better plastic alternatives in general, as algae will always have a throughput problem when considered on a global scale. Nanotech and so on will all be heavily impacted by the ability to simulate these technology-enabling materials on a computer in a high-throughput manner, and then go after only the most promising candidates in the lab. Very biased, though, as this is literally one of the focuses on my PhD. Story 11 The rise of fascism across the world. It's already in the US, it's not coming, it's here. Luckily Canada saw what was happening in the US, and reversed course on who they were poised to elect. Nothing ever good comes from fascist governments, ever period. Story 12 Magnetic cooling is an emerging technology that uses the magnetocaloric effect to transfer heat, eliminating the need for compressors and harmful gases like CFCs and HFCs. It has the potential to be more energy efficient. Lab tests suggest up to 2030 efficiency gains over traditional systems. While still in development, commercial applications could appear in the next 510 years. Replacing CFCs and HFCs would significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, as these refrigerants have global warming potentials thousands of times higher than CO, Hey, race a video talking about this tech. Story 13 AI use cases have drastically shifted from technical help to emotional and personal support. This is going to be so dangerous for generations born into these LLM companies being their best friend and confidant. If you think advertising is too good now, imagine telling your best friend that you're struggling with something and they start nudging you towards a product they couldn't have possibly used. I'm not worried about Skynet, I'm worried about people being able to interact in person. Socialization and social structure is literally how we conquered the planet. Story 14 Two main technologies I can see making huge leaps, and if they take off they will change everything. 1. Nuclear fusion energy generation. Test reactors have already been built and fired. China have sustained over 5 minutes so far, and other nations are building test facilities. Safe, cheap, clean energy with minimal dangerous waste. 2. Battery technology like graphene. Once battery technologies advance and the costs come down, I can see local power storage for renewable technologies, home power packs, EVs etc. becoming much more cost-effective. They would also be able to charge in half the time or less. Put the two together, and you have clean, cheap energy which can be stored for peak shaving, later use, cars and all sorts. Story 15 Self-driving cars. Imagine eating your scrambled eggs or catching a power nap on a commute to work. Also imagine someone dying while driving. It happens more than we talk about, and the car continues towards that final destination. Kids running out to the driveway being all grandmas here. Why? Story 16 Molten salt thorium reactors. However, they will be in China, and the only way we will get any for ourselves is if we buy them from China. We are so far behind on this technology that it would be a major effort to catch up. So sad as we had the ability to build test MSRS in the 50s. Story 17 We're seeing the end of global capitalism as we know it. Multiple bubbles are about to burst in quick succession, causing economic devastation on a level not seen since 1929. Millions of millennials and Gen Zers are over-leveraged on debt they have no way of paying back. Not just student loan and credit card debt, but Klarna, a firm, after pay these by now, pay later schemes approve loans the same way banks approved mortgages in 2008, and it's fully unregulated and untraceable. Combine that with wealth inequality and the idiotic tariff wars Trump is starting, and you're looking at a total collapse of our current economic system in 10 years at the latest. Story 18 Robots and the decline of the human population. Seriously, think about it. You have a robot who is exactly what you desire, will allow you to live whatever messed up fantasy life you want, no arguments, no pushback, it only does what you want. To be clear, I do not think this will be all good. Having a spouse with checks and balances is a good thing, otherwise I'd have bought a boat a long time ago. Suicide due to impossible income future economic planning disparities. It doesn't add up anymore, someone has stolen the future. Story 19 In Western developed countries. Insufficient working age population. This is an imminent problem which will sharply affect the economies of major countries like Korea, Japan, Italy. The obvious answer is immigration, but that's being handled very poorly in most places. Story 20 The quantum roofinizing aerodynamic kryptonomizer. It will create breakthroughs in antibiotic susceptibility training. It will destroy all of the theories the scientific community once had on mesocyclonic relativity and polymerase chain reactions. Story 21 As AI automation eliminates most high-paying jobs and the cost of food and urban real estate becomes unaffordable for most people, we will see a new back-to-nature movement. Turnkey fully automated off-the-grid compounds in remote locations will explode in popularity. Microfarming, water collection and structure maintenance systems will be completely self-sustaining and will run entirely on integrated solar power. People will have much more free time and will get back to living social lives in small rural communities. Story 22 Extrapolate this graph out across another decade or two. Wars, recessions, pandemics all just accelerate it. The only answer historically seems to be things like the French Revolution. Money is power, and power rarely cedes power. The other coming out is America's shale oil industry and the end of the Bretton Woods era. America will be energy independent, and will no longer protect global commerce on the seas. So we may see a massive global destabilization, recession, depression, regional wars over energy, that the US is fairly protected from due to energy and geographical isolation from Europe and Asia. Lots of arguing about this possible future, but it's a distinct possibility. Story 23 10 to 15 years ago I said hydrogen-powered electric cars, but apparently expansion and innovation with those came to a dead stop soon after they were released in California. So frankly, I don't have a clue because everything that seems important to humanity gets snuffed out because some rich will lose money to it. Story 24 In 1970, it was fine to get a degree, and your knowledge would be relevant until the moment you retired. This is changing and changing fast. The myth that a degree is something that guarantees you a job will soon become obvious, and the only thing employers will look for is the skill of self-learning. This will make degrees even less relevant. Even now, people question whether they should pursue a degree or study on their own. In the future, this trend is expected to skyrocket, and we will see a generation of entirely self-taught people. Story 25 The Artemis Moon Missions. The first planned moonwalk since 1972, putting the first woman and first person of color on the moon. The missions are designed to explore the feasibility of putting a human base on the moon, to act as a midway point for further exploration to Mars. Story 26 The tokamak reactor in France that's supposed to be done in 2035 I believe. may change energy forever or at the least open up more avenues to more efficient power, probably already has. Story 27. The Ceres team has been collecting YARB data since 1997, when the first Ceres instrument was launched aboard the Tropical Rainfall Measuring Mission TRMM satellite. Since then, Ceres instruments have launched aboard the Terra, Aqua, Suomi National Polar Orbiting Partnership SNPP and NOAA-20 satellites. The Ceres instruments provide direct measurements of reflected solar radiation and emission of thermal infrared radiation to space across all wavelengths between the ultraviolet and far infrared. For the last 8 years, Ceres has found that the Earth is absorbing more energy each year. This is caused by the loss of ice cover due to climate change. Less and less ice is created each year, so less and less energy is reflected back into space. This acceleration cannot be stopped without disastrous consequences. Climate change is coming, and it's going to destroy the world's economy and kill hundreds of millions of people. There are areas in the US where insurance companies will not insure a house because of either the likelihood of storm damage or flooding or wildfires. In these areas you cannot get a mortgage because insurance is required for all mortgages. If you can't get a mortgage, you can't buy or sell the property, crashing the market. The banks that hold the mortgages in these areas are seeing a total loss of the properties they own, crashing the banking industry. This collapse of the economic system is happening now. Story 28. Microplastics. They're already in the environment and our bodies, accumulate over time, and we may only find their health effects in a few decades, just like it happened with asbestos. Story 29. Post-quantum encryption. Artificial intelligence aided by post-quantum encryption. Artificial intelligence aided side-channel attacks, trapped ion sensing, synthetic biology, Wi-Fi, halo, ubiquitous technical surveillance, fusion power, neural networks, AI replacement for human jobs. Story 30. Majority of answers are just things that have already happened or are happening right now. I'm going to have to be pessimistic and say the best bet is increased global conflicts and war, along with further erosion of human rights, liberty and freedoms, with governments further monitoring and controlling society. Story 31. Neuralink just implanted a successful chip into someone with ALS who's nonverbal. He's communicating now. So, in the next 10 to 15 years, I think we're going to see a boom in communication with lots of people who are nonverbal. And I predict we're going to be able to cure or fix a lot of issues we could only guess about simply because the people suffering can't express what they're feeling or thinking. Story 32. The legalization, decriminalization, and destigmatization of our ancient medicines, specifically psilocybin mushrooms, so less reliance on pharmaceuticals and a happier, more connected populace. Fingers crossed. Story 33. The widespread understanding too late to change the outcome that we have irrevocably harmed all coming human generations with our climate inaction, even though the consequences have been clear for 50 years. Story 34. CRISPR gene editing. This tech can be mixed with bioprinting and really be used to do some amazing things. Limb replacement, easy, gender reassignment, how about complete gender swapping, ending genetic disease, done. I could go on, but you get the idea. Story 35. Lab-grown organs are becoming closer and closer to reality each day, and the progress made in this field has been tremendous. No longer having to search or find the perfect donor organ that you will still need lifelong medication to keep your body from killing will be world-changing. Though I don't think we'll be getting full limbs or anything like that in the near future, but all your organs are on the table. I also think that we are slowly approaching the revival of using certain substances that are branded as illegal back into psychotherapy. MDMA, ecstasy being a big one. It was used throughout the 70s as a therapy aid and was taught to over 4,000 therapists, and was produced legally up until around 1985, though some of the producers turned it into a recreational substance. After that, it was made illegal despite initial judges ruling it was fine to turn it into a regulated substance, and psychologists from places such as Harvard declaring the drug had clear use. In 2017, it was approved for therapeutical use with PTSD. This is just one example of certain substances that have slowly been coming back into the conversation of psychology and therapy. In the next 15, I expect them to become more widely used as decriminalization increases and stigma decreases. Story 36. The therapy that releases AIM from IgM, restoring its waste clearing function and potentially stopping or reversing CKD progression in kitties. Preclinical studies suggest it could extend cats' lifespans up to 30 years. The therapy is developed by good guy Dr. Toru Miyazaki at the University of Tokyo, and he wants to make it widely available and cheap. Story 37. Artificial womb might take more than a decade to reach its advancement stages, but it's definitely going to be pretty revolutionary, especially in the organ donation sector. Story 38. Within 5 years, the newest Rockwell turbo encabulator will enter mass production. The new model incorporates phase-dampened cardinal grammeters and semi-bowling feedback loops, promises to disrupt sectors ranging from aerospace to food service. With advances in unilateral phase detractors and nanoscaled spurving bearings, it's expected to outpace Moore's law and most laws of thermodynamics. Investors are already throwing money at whiteboards. Turbo encabulation is the future, and it's coming faster thanks to sinusoidal delta warp vacuum technology. Story 39. Bigger batteries. Everyone needs them, and the next big, like 3x or more increase in capacity, and with a long life and the ability to charge and discharge numerous times, still be very wealthy. Story 40. I'm waiting with bated breath for quality lab-grown meat. I love meat, and won't be giving it up, But I also recognize that the industrial meat industry is horrifying. I'd like to see a world where we don't need to torture cows, chickens, and who knows how many other animals for a meal. Story 41. It's going to be cancer treatment. On the one hand, there will be cancer treatments that will allow us to extend our lives significantly. On the other hand, a lot of people won't take it because we've shown how reluctant they are for even simple things like vaccines. Another issue will be if we extend your life. Can you financially support yourself? How ambulatory are you, and what support would you need from an already pressured healthcare system? Story 42. Perfect AI video generation on your phone. Generate a perfect video of anything your mind can come up with using prompts, and you record a video of something with your camera, then use prompts to alter it, e.g., you take a video of a car driving past, then you say make car start flying, do a flip, then catch fire. Personal Hollywood studio in everyone's pockets. There will be all kinds of pushback copyright protecting truth issues legislation etc. in the early days, but eventually the technology will mainstream to a point of massive cultural shift. It's both scary and exciting. Story 43. Home fusion reactors. Battery tech that allows a car to go 1,000 miles on a charge, desalination tech that allows coastal deserts to become lush cropland. Story 44. The collapse of the global order for the first time in the nuclear age. We might just be getting that nuclear extinction we just barely missed between 1945 to 1989. Story 45. I watched a YouTube video recently where a guy tested out a commercially acquired powered mobility exoskeleton. He tested it hiking, running, walking and cycling. All forms were dramatically improved by the exoskeleton. Not only will this help with the elderly and their mobility issues, but I'm guessing it'll help factory workers etc. work longer hours with less strain on their bodies. Think Death Stranding, but in an Amazon facility. Dystopian, but fascinating. Story 46. Breakthroughs in brain-computer interface BCI technology, like Neuralink, could help paralyzed patients regain mobility and might even enable healthy individuals to enhance cognitive abilities such as memory enhancement or direct brain-machine interaction through neural implants. However, this technology risks creating new social divisions. Only a wealthy elite could afford cognitive upgrades, while ordinary people face generational gaps in technological access, even sparking debates around digital eugenics as an ethical dilemma. This potential divide has yet to trigger meaningful discussions in broader social policy circles. Story 47. AI is going to destroy the fabric of human communication, and everything else will follow because communication is everything. In 66 years my life has gone from 3 grainy black and white channels on TV to handheld information machines. The inability of people to communicate effectively contributes to misunderstanding and then anger, too often angry outbursts and violence. A critical element of communication is listening. We don't listen well because too often we're communicating with our handheld machines. We are losing our ability to read, speak, and write, not just put words together. People cannot write the alphabet legibly. And hey, race a test, are these words the same there? They're of course they're not, but how are they different? I'm not looking for my death, not planning for my death, but I understand that for me, when death comes I'll be relieved, because this world has spiraled in ways that make my soul hurt. And I guess my own grandparents would have thought 3-channel television was too much, that the radio we listened to was plenty to be getting on with, and their grandparents thought newspapers were all the communication needed, no need for radio. But AI is a bridge too far into the destruction of clean, pure communication, all smoke and mirrors. Story 48. Psychedelics, specifically MDMA psilocybin. Following the steps of ketamine becoming more and more prominent as a successful treatment in psychology, we're seeing rates of like 60 to 70% of people healed after 1 to 3 treatments of a psychedelic with psychotherapy in between. Which is unheard of in psychology because a good number for treatments approved is typically around 30 to 35. The numbers are so promising that the FDA labeled them as breakthrough therapies, which accelerates the rate at which they get approved. Hopefully it ends up helping a lot of people once it is approved. Unfortunately, there was a setback where the FDA regulators rejected the approval of MDMA for PTSD last August. But the trials that the company administering the MDMA medication had provided showed that 71% of patients no longer met diagnostic criteria for PTSD, and almost half were considered in remission, functionally cured 18 weeks after they started MDMA-assisted therapy. Definitely an interesting deep dive if anyone is curious. Disclaimer: this is not an endorsement of administering these drugs yourself, and should only be done once a professional can give you accurate dosing while monitoring you. Story 49. I'm pretty excited about what's coming in material science. Things like graphene and similar new compounds are already going to blow people's minds, but it's the acceleration that's getting me excited. AI is already radically accelerating things. Last year, in one single announcement, Google's AI, DeepMind, discovered 2 million new inorganic materials unknown to humanity, suddenly expanding the 40,000 materials previously known to our species by 2 orders of magnitude. Let that sink in. It's also likely we will discover many new elements as a result of similar work. Efforts are already underway to find more beyond 118, and these will be radically accelerated by AI. Story 50. AI. It's the cute little lion cub that someone tries to make a pet out of at this point. Once it grows up and sizes up its handlers, it's going to eat us. Story 51. As a surveyor, I have been waiting for augmented reality to make its big entry for a few years now, seamlessly overlaying data on reality would be huge for my field. Story 52. We're this close to finding the cause of multiple sclerosis and might therefore be able to soon have a remedy. This might also be a huge step forward in research on other diseases in which the bowel and the central nervous system relate to each other. Story 53. Holocaust 2.0 doesn't seem too far-fetched for the Americans anymore. Like it all, we have glaring similarities, so I would say that will affect people worldwide. We won't be taking in foreign exchange students or any sort of international student, so that affects more than just Americans. Americans do have produce that's shipped all around, so I would say that's going to affect a lot of people over time. Farmers, truck drivers, investors, the government will subsidize more, produce is going to skyrocket fairly soon, so I say Americans should learn how to grow produce they need. Our military will likely be used to carry out further stages of a genocide if we have something full-blown, so that will affect those who are forced to do it or who don't want to but have no choice. Yeah, America's Holocaust is what I would say is going to affect a lot of people. It also won't be quiet. We are being bombed with so much stuff there's no way to keep up with everything being done under this administration. Even if you are politically educated, this is a bunch of firsts. We are doomed. Also, no way in weed is going to be federally legal now. I'm waiting 4 years for that. Story 54. Mass unemployment from AI leading to mass homelessness and mass starvation. The billionaires will fiddle and tell everyone to pull on their bootstraps. Story 55. Love reading about all the scientific advances in this thread. I just hope that the research that is making these innovations possible has not been cut by the Trump administration. The long-term repercussions of those cuts have yet to be calculated. Story 56. Climate change. Yes, we talk about it a bit, but we don't talk about it enough. It's going to be largely ignored until enough crops start failing. Then it will be panic stations and massive famine, but it'll be way too late at that point. Story 57. Personal AI companions. Not just assistants like Siri or Alexa. I'm talking full-blown, emotionally intelligent AI that actually gets you. It learns your habits, your humor, your moods. It remembers the stuff you forget. It helps you think, process emotions, stay organized, make decisions almost like a digital best friend, but super smart and totally tailored to you. Story 58. The withdrawal of the United States from global politics. I'm not going to defend the bad stuff that the U.S. government has done around the world, but I believe that U.S. dominance since WW2 has prevented WW3 and nuclear proliferation. I predict a lot more conflict in the world. Story 59. War in the Indo-Pacific, the next land war in Europe, the increasing use of fertilizers because the ground is becoming increasingly sterile for its rate of use, climate change accelerating the destabilization of entire industries, collapse of insurance industries and communities being rocked when disasters do occur. Widespread unreconcilable water shortages preventing current levels of expected prosperity, mass migrations from impacted areas of a multitude of factors destabilizing surrounding nation-states unable to control the influx, increased isolationism of callous isolationist nation-states out of pure required preservation of resources. Decreased levels of education at an accelerated rate, increasing wealth gap to dystopian levels till destabilization of faith in financial systems. I just want to stop listing them so I feel less shitty. We aren't ready for the world we've cultivated in complacency in protecting it from the sociopaths. The Pied Piper is coming just like technological innovation. It's advancing at a rate faster than we can instill safeguards till the cost in blood is too great to stomach. Story 60. Scientists have potentially found a way to prevent cavities by populating your mouth with non-harmful bacteria instead. Most cavities are caused by bacteria eating sugars and excreting acids that eat away at the enamel. The treatment works by sanitizing your mouth to kill the existing bacteria, then adding in the beneficial ones. The new bacteria take over and secrete natural antibiotics to prevent the harmful bacteria from coming back. Story 61. New Dark Ages. Baby, we've already lost the internet as a reliable source of information. The more institutions weaken and fall, the more we will revert to pre-modern ideologies. Story 62. A digital pop. How much more humanity can take of disconnect, bots, AI assist-generated everything, disingenuous intent, ads, questioning what's real or not, things not working without a subscription. It'll give it an honest 7 more years till we all crack. Story 63. Green hydrogen. Bit of a pipe dream, but if we can actually work out a way to produce hydrogen using solar, hydroelectric and wind power, it will most likely destroy the fossil fuel industry, if not at least destroy their monopoly. And not just in transportation and everything from smelting to commercial cooking. Hydrogen for the win. Story 64. Mind reading technology. It will likely become able to be done with very low-resolution imaging that can be created from stuff like Wi-Fi signals. I wish I were crazy, but AI has already enabled this technology with fMRIs. Story 65. IDLL go largely unnoticed, but sodium-ion batteries are going to change everything way cheaper, easier to produce, and safer. That means the largest cost of electric vehicles is going to drop significantly, as will the cost of pretty much everything else that's battery-powered. Story 66. Solid-state batteries providing more energy density, power density, and safety constraints. The battery has been holding human technology back since modern enlightenment. The fact that the competition for EVs brought this to light and not NASA is amazing. We are in for huge changes in a short future. Story 67. mRNA for sure. We're about to see customizable mRNA vaccines for basically anything not going right in your body. It's going to be a crazy game changer. Story 68 Communication. Instant language translation technology. Also, I wouldn't mind being able to communicate with other species, but that might be further off. Story 69 Research into growing generating neurons and the processes behind demyelination. From what I understand, near the brainstem and spine, new neurons in adults were seen being generated some years ago. Research into that, or demyelination, a lot to do with aging habits, cc. Big proposed benefits to those with disabilities, degenerative diseases, and the likes. Note, I am not a professional nor do I have graduate levels of education on this. If anyone is more knowledgeable and has input that isn't so antiquated, I'd love to learn. Story 70 Demographic collapse. The tendency to living longer and have fewer children has spread for decades, and we're going to witness the first irreversible demographic collapses within the next generation. First to go is probably South Korea, followed by a number of other East Asian countries. But many Western countries are headed the same way, and the conversation we need to have about how we fix it is too bleak to take.